What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So man, this video is a little different. Um, I like to keep it real, be authentic with y'all, dog. I definitely enjoy talking about sports, talking about basketball, you know what I'm saying? Definitely more entertaining of a conversation. But today for some real shit, dog. For some real shit, bro. I'm really going through it, you know, and dealing with my situation because I have kids, man, and all my kids are not by the same person, you know what I'm saying? Um, and having that influence that you want to have on your child when they're not in the home with you all the time, and the other parent doesn't prioritize, certain events or certain things pertaining to what you may have set up for your child or what you want to do for your child, you know what I'm saying? Um, and I know that there's a lot of factors that go into that, the mother's upbringing and stuff like that. But as a father, it's hard, dog. It is hard when you are working to provide a certain lifestyle, or you're building a particular tradition, trying to do something special with your sons, for sure. Man, it's hard when you don't have like-minded people around you, you know what I'm saying, or around them. Because a lot of times, when you're not with the other parent, they gonna prioritize and structure their life around what they want to structure and prioritize their life around, you know. And while your kid, your son, looks at you and sees you as his father, you know, if that time is missing between you and the child and y'all not spending that quality time together, man, they start to form a particular bond with the other parent, and the people that they are around versus, you know, your bloodline, your lineage, you know what I'm saying? Um, and I believe that that has a negative impact on the child down the road, dog, you know, because your legacy goes through your father, bro. You know what I'm saying? And as a dad, you often, because I mean, you still human, Nobody wants to like have to battle and remind or question or have conversations about, why certain things that you're building with your child is important, you know, and why, as the father, you should be prioritized and allowed to build a strong bond with your son, because the world, dog, you know, the world these days is tough, man. And I think a lot of women prioritize, you know, themselves and their sons' lives and don't realize the detriment that it has when you're basically pushing the father to the side in the son's mind, you know what I'm saying? Um, because later in life, when it's time to be a man, they lack that connection, they lack that training, that teaching. My oldest son and my youngest son, they spend a lot of time alongside me. Um, so they get to see me be a man. They get to see me get up and handle business. They get to, see a relationship dynamic between my oldest son's mom and I, and how those things work. They get to see that, man. They get to see me be in my position, be the head of the table. And they're constantly being taught to be responsible, be a leader, be a protector, man, be a provider, you know what I'm saying? Um, so, they constantly get taught those things, and I don't ever want my kids to grow up resenting the fact that they didn't have that, you know what I'm saying? And I see a lot of conversations on social media that depicts the father as less present, or uh, not exerting, or a lack effort, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And what people don't understand is that, dog, you know, sometimes the women that those kids are with don't prioritize the father being present, dog, and make you have to go and beat on the door. You know what I'm saying? Make you have to, you know, put yourself in uncomfortable situations all the time just to be a father, dog. And it shouldn't be like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be like that. One of the things that I'm teaching my oldest son, dog, that I just figured out, you know, part of the reason why I was out here wilding out was because, dog, I didn't have a connection to my lineage, my family. I grew up thinking one thing about who I was, where I came from, and then later along in life, learning that, okay, this is my actual family. My son is one of two that can carry on our last name. That's a big responsibility, and it's very special. So mindset is important. So, man, I got a ceremony for my son that he's gonna have, next summer, because he's kind of, about to hit puberty, and you know what I'm saying, he going into young manhood or whatever. So it's a ceremony, basically, where you pass the torch, you know what I'm saying, and it's gonna be real royal. It's like a real royal event, you know what I'm saying. I'm doing that because I want him to feel that he's a king in here and in here. You know what I'm saying? So he going through this process of accepting his responsibility from the family. We starting a tradition with my oldest son. So gonna be a whole ceremony. The first ever in our family, dog. But basically, I'm creating our own family emblem. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we creating a whole ceremony. And I'm doing this, like I said, because I want him to feel mentally and internally like, man, he a king. You know what I'm saying? And he gonna do the same thing with his son. You feel me? Because we gotta pass on the last name. You know what I'm saying? So now I get it. I get it now. I had to understand how important legacy was. And I'm passing that down to my son. He gonna understand that legacy is important. We building a business, we building a brand, and it's important for him to understand that part of his responsibility is to carry that forward. Carry that legacy forward. You dig? But I don't get to do that if his mom, because say what you want, man, kids, man, they don't care what condition their mama is in, dog. They love their mom, dog. So kids follow their mom. So it's important. I tell my son all the time, it's important to choose a woman that's gonna support you and help you capture your goals, your dreams, dog. You don't want to be out here switching and sharing, making soul ties with random people, dog. You want somebody that's special, that's gonna support your legacy, and understand that how important they are to your legacy. You know what I'm saying? Because behind every strong man is a strong woman, dog. It's a female that's gonna keep your schedule together. It's a female that, because y'all gotta remember, biblically, the devil and the female, they have a weird relationship. You know what I'm saying? A female can sense evil, dog. Her intuition can sense evil. She is a spiritual protector, dog. Having a good woman, dog, having your rib, a spiritual protector, bro. She gonna let you know when that nigga ain't right. You know what I'm saying? She gonna have your back and gonna be your ride or die. That's what that really is. A spiritual protector. Her and the devil, they have a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Not in the sense of, they cool or whatever. But that's why some women, man, they do some of the most evil stuff, dog, because, they choosing to embrace a relationship with the evil one versus, being the spiritual protector. you know, engaging and wanting to be a part of that entity, you know what I'm saying? And by doing devilish shit. But, you know, I want him to understand that it's important to have you a good woman by your side, dog. Because with a good woman by your side, bro, dog, it's a lot of shit that you gonna be able to accomplish because they're in line with your vision, you know? And you protect them physically, but she can protect you spiritually, dog. And I want my kids to understand that, bro. You know what I'm saying? I really do. So anyway, man, that's the end of my little rant for the day. More videos coming soon, man. Y'all know we gonna get it back popping, man. I've been seeing a lot of the comments come in. A lot of stuff going on around the NBA. We definitely need to talk about, you know, seems like basketball is going back inside out. It did seem like, you know, mid-range is coming back, and, you know, that seemed to be winning basketball. No matter how many threes people shoot, the game seems to revert back to that early 2000s type of vibe. So we're going to be talking about that in the next video, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace.